Flamingo Estates, Nigeria, with the best security and modern amenities like swimming pool, clubhouse, standing arena views, parking space, and a 24-hour lift service. At only 225 million with a condominium Miloland title. To book, call 0757 878 448 or 0776 015 352. Don't miss this chance to own a home with universal affordable housing. Are you tired of the early morning hustle? Worry not! Affordable housing has the answer to it.
And every other week, remember, I have told you that every other week we will bring an expert on the show who will tell us, who will give us a few lessons and a peek into what it takes to get to a condominium investment. This week we have another beautiful lady on the show. We are going to give you some bit of knowledge, some bit of understanding, and some bit of what you would need to know really when you are considering to invest in a condominium apartment. But before that, last week we also had some winners who took home some shopping vouchers worth 100,000 shillings. I hope you were able to see those winners. Just a few answered questions, a few simple questions, and they were able to get shopping vouchers. This week, we continue the same habits. We're getting into Christmas, and we're telling you Christmas comes early at Universal Affordable Housing. And we are still going to be giving out 100,000 shopping vouchers and also meal vouchers at Cafe Java's. I'll later in the show, tell you about that question that will get you to Cafe Java's, to that shopping voucher. But for now, let's get into why we are here today. We are here to talk about fraud in real estate investment. So many times people out there want to actually take the step into buying land, into buying a house, into buying an apartment, and really they are worried, they are full of fear. Aren't I going to find some buffet somewhere? But no. We are with Phiona Nasasra Wall. Phiona Navasa Wall, who is the president of the Law Society in Uganda. She's going to be telling us, giving us a bit of knowledge about how you can take that step, the rightful step into owning a condominium apartment. So please let's welcome Phiona Navasa to the show. How are you, Phiona, today?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm okay. You look awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking care of yourself. You look very beautiful.
Oh, wow.
All right, so let's get into it. You are the president of the Uganda Law Society in the country.
Yeah.
And I'm sure with that sort of experience, you have heard about the buffets. I like to call them buffets because in Uganda, we know they are buffets. Fraud in investment.
Yeah.
You're trying to get to invest into an apartment, to buy some land,
Yes.
and you come across those buffets.
Mm.
What, in your experience, if you can give us a brief background of how this begins and how a person out there can watch out for those small things before we get into a condominium law and all that. Just tell us about the experience of how it actually happens and how it begins.
I think somebody first of all said you can't con an honest person. And I'm not saying that those who've been conned are dishonest, but what I think that meant, and this was in a famous con movie called Hustle, and they say that you can't con an honest person. And this is because an honest person asks questions, an honest person takes time before they make an investment decision, an honest person does due diligence. And that's what I would advise everybody. The land tenure system in Uganda, this is the way people own land, is a bit disorganized right now because on the same piece of land you might find someone has a chibanja, you might find there is that person who owns the land title from registry of lands, there's somebody who owns a leasehold sometimes, somebody who owns maybe a title they got from the district land board. So because of this, there's always a bit of a confusion. So I'd advise anybody before they take an investment decision in real estate to do due diligence. Get a lawyer. Let that lawyer do a search and do due diligence. Once they give you this due diligence report, that lawyer, you can always take that lawyer on when they do it, if anything goes wrong. I would advise you to use a lawyer, because at least the lawyers are governed by the law council. Their license can be revoked. They have offices. You can take them on. But if you just use a broker whose address you do not know, who's, you know, they can do anything to you. We've had people who have been sold a road. We've had people been sold air. We've had people who have been sold, there are also people who construct sham houses. And I have a friend,
the diaspora,
yes,
they send money.
I have a friend who purchased land, constructed a house for 2 years, and then when he came here, he found air. But there's also been, there's a colleague I know who actually purchased a house, and 2 weeks into moving into the house, the ceiling just collapsed.
Oh,
so there's so many things you need to look into for quality. For if you're building if you're buying an already constructed house, do due diligence on those people. Who owns the title? What's the history of the title? And only a professional can actually get to see and judge for you. So do not just look at someone giving you a title and you believe it, because Nassau Road exists, we all know. Do not look at someone just giving you a search document from the Ministry of Lands. There's no guarantee that that is the actual search document. But if you get a professional like a lawyer to do the search for you, that means they're going to look at the white page, they're going to look at the history of the transaction, they're going to see if there is any other, you know. And then when you're doing the purchase, you need to use again, I want to advise, I'm not just putting out a kalango for my members, but you see, the lawyer will ensure that when you're coming out with your title, it's gazetted, because this process will be respected by the courts of law. But if you do things very quickly, you know, if someone tells you, you know, I'm processing the title, just pay money now, that, you know,
or it's going to be taken, there is a rush that goes into, you know, if you don't pay now, it's going to be taken by someone else.
So don't make a decision without doing your due diligence. And I always tell people, do not shop when you're hungry. Don't wait to fall into money and then you start looking for land. If you know that you have a plan to invest, start looking around now, make your decisions very wisely, then wait for the money.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that is a little peek into any type of investment, not just condominium investment, not just land investment, but fraud in investment. So Phiona has just told us to do due diligence, actually take your time and not shop when you're hungry. But now let's get into the condominium concept. Condominium concept is new in the country. It's fairly new in the country. It's just getting into the country. And I'm sure there must be a law that guides this condominium concept. What is the condominium law and what are the guidelines in the country as for now?
The concept of condominium is not very, it's about maybe about 13, 14 years old in the country. We're in 2020. No, it's about 20 years old.
And why I feel like Ugandans are just now getting into
No, it's because now there are more people like you guys, you know, multi-purpose. But the condominiums have existed since national housing. If you go to the national housing estates, those are condominiums. Now, condominium is a small, is the title, is what we call the title for a small unit, a housing unit within a block of units. Especially the ones that are attached to each other. So what that does is it gives you, that title gives you ownership of that unit and some surrounding benefits. So the condominium law, the Condominium Act of Uganda is from 2001, and it really talks about condominiums. And in 2002, they developed the regulations that regulate fees and all those things that you might need to pay. However, usually organizations that are building, like National Housing, will give you a title when they've already constructed a condominium. So they assume that the fees for this title means that you're buying a house that has utilities, a house that is complete. Some of them will ask you to pay for a shell, then you complete it yourself. It depends. However, at the end of the day, because it's a condominium, under the condominium law, this whole block of units needs to be governed by maybe a board. And so that's what the condominium regulations do. They guide on how the 10 people who bought units in this flat, like this apartment here, this complex, can govern themselves, because all the amenities that they have, the car parking, the gazebo, the swimming pool, the compound, are common areas. So the common areas have to be managed by a board that is going to actually collect fees for the communal services like cleaning and garbage collection. Yes.
And also, I think you talked about a condominium title.
Yes, so what you get is you get a title, a condominium title. The condominium title says you own this land. Now, you need to also look into the title, the mother title.
Of the land where the apartments are.
Because the condominium title might be for, the condominium title will be for as long as the lease or the, because some of these now are foreign owned, so you'll find that they are leases, because you cannot own a freehold or a Milo when you're a foreign company. So it will be a leasehold. It's good for you to inform yourself on how long that leasehold is. And that will also inform you on how long the condominium you're buying is and what will that mean afterwards. Can you convert this condominium title into a freehold? These are things that you need to look into, and a lawyer will advise you on that.
Okay,
so you'll get a title that will entitle you to owning that property and doing whatever you want with it. Okay. However, because it's a condominium, the building plans and all these things were communally were approved. Yes, but if they say, for instance, in national housing, you cannot just wake up and paint your flat yellow or outside. You can do anything inside, but the outside, usually there are requirements on how it should look, because it's part of a whole bigger picture.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. We are getting to learn a lot of things right now from Phiona Wall. She's the president of the Uganda Law Society, and she's telling us more about the law in the condominium concept. Right now, we are going to take a very short break. But do remember, we have a question actually at the end of this show, which is going to allow you to win a meal voucher at Cafe Java's, or even a shopping voucher worth 100,000 Ugandan shillings. Keep with us, do not go anywhere. I'll be right back.
Welcome to Peacock Residency, one of the tallest buildings in Nigeria with modern amenities like a swimming pool, gym, jogging track at only 172 million for a 2-bedroom, 189 million for a 3-bedroom with a condominium Milo title. For more information, contact us on 0757 878 443 or 0776 015 352. Visit our website at www.affordablehousing.ug. Our offices are located in Naguru Plot 36B Katalima Crescent in Timbuktu.
We are talking about the condominium concept and the law that guides these condominiums. Phiona just told me something new I did not know. She said condominiums have actually been around in the country for over 20 years now. I didn't know that myself. I'm just learning it now. And I'm sure most of the Ugandans out there, the layman like me, might likely have not known this fact, and maybe would need a few lessons and some bit of knowledge about how this condominium actually works. But aside that, I just want to let you know, guys, that COVID is real. Before we get into the conversation, so recently I was on a border and I sit through taxis and I see people not wearing masks, and I ask myself, what is happening to Uganda? You know, so it is important to actually be out there and put your mask on to avoid the spread of COVID-19. It is now all over, it's affecting all of us, so please let's make sure to ensure that we are safe from COVID. Phiona, welcome back from that break.
Thank you.
Well, you were still giving me knowledge about the condominium concept. I didn't know some things, and I'm glad that I've met you and I'm learning as well. Let's talk about the prices that come with, after the purchase of a condominium. What are the other, because you purchase a condominium and that is all the person knows. I've bought a house, now it's mine. And then later you are faced with all these bills and all this money. You're like, I wish I knew all this. So let's get to know about what other fees is the person liable to after they have bought this condominium.
If you remember what I said before, if you were to consult a lawyer, the brief you'd give them is go to this person that I'm going to buy from, establish for me that everything is okay, and then tell me all the fees that they're going to charge until I have a title.
You know, that's
Because why I'm advising this is that what happens is if you go alone, you're going to buy, what are you going to buy? You understand? In the law we say you have to pass good title. What does passing good title mean? How much will it cost me? This condominium here, they're saying a 2-bedroom is 180 million. Does it mean that I take 180 million and that's it? No. It means that when I take 180 million, the title will be in the names of Universal. So that means that there is going to be a process of Universal, the name changing to Phiona. For that process to happen, I have to pay URA taxes. I have to pay some fees to the registrar of titles, because my title has to be registered, and then I'll also have to pay whoever is doing this role. Why I advise for it to be a lawyer is that the lawyer will give you an opinion at the beginning that will show you all these costs, including their own costs. Now, when you get a broker, and I mean just broker, these brokers on the street, he's going to come and he's going to say 180 million. And then he's going to say, for me to get you a nice flat at 180 million, you're going to pay me maybe 2 million. So you pay your 182 million and think that that is it. But what you don't know is that there are additional things. Then you're going to think that you've been cheated. So what I would advise is get proper legal advice on the financial, or what we call the fiscal implications of your purchase, so that you budget appropriately. 180 million, you have to pay taxes, you have to do this. So for you to actually finish this transaction and there are people who do these transactions so that they can make a business of it. So you can say, I want to buy this property, 180 million, I'm assuming that it will build something, so I'm planning that I'll sell it at 200 million. So you promised some Muzungu out there that you're going to sell him a flat at 200 million when you know you're going to pay 180 million here. But then the Muzungu says, but the title is not in your names. Then you find that by the time you're done with the title process, it has cost you 200 million. You're not going to make a profit of it. So what I would advise is get a due diligence report from your lawyer, and let it also speak about the financial implications so that you make a sound financial decision. And I also want to say that it costs you more to pay in installments. It also costs you more to borrow money. You know, there's the price of money.
So, okay, that's good.
For instance, if I go to the bank and I borrow 180 million, and the bank says it's at 18%, and it says it's for 5 years, so you have to calculate 180 times 18 times 5 over 100. Now that will be the amount of interest that is additional that you're going to add. You understand what I mean? So that means that if you're making this financial decision to borrow money, is it the one you want to make now? Because you might have the 180 million, but you're being mkonogam. You're like, why don't I borrow money? Why don't I use Stanbic's money for now and I continue with my transaction? But it's going to cost you more. The other thing is Universal might tell you pay in installments like this and like that, like that. But if you offered them to pay immediately, they might actually reduce the what? The money. Because sometimes they're asking for installments to enable you to pay, but money costs money. So if I pay now, they might be able to give you a discount because you will be removing the cost of them having to wait for the money.
Wow.
Yeah.
So your advice is that it's actually better to bring
if you have the money, pay it at once and go. But the other thing is also, there are many reasons why people pay installments. I'm not discouraging it. I was just saying that these are some of the salient points of advice that your banker, if you have a banker who is for you, not the one who's lending you money. If you have a banker, or if you have a lawyer who is going to advise you, or if you have a real estate agent who has a certificate, although that law has not yet become a law, so I do not know where you'd report them if things went wrong, but I think that if you have proper legal advice, you'll be able to make a proper financial decision on whether to pay immediately, on whether to, Universal might have their own, the person that you're buying from might even offer to get the title for you. There's nothing wrong with that. So you can measure the cost, but it also depends on how you trust that person. Yeah.
So you talked about the fees that come after you've purchased this product, this apartment. You spoke of the registrar fees, and then you also spoke of title transfer fees.
Yeah, and then taxes.
Taxes, URA as well. Yeah. Is that all, or is there other more money?
Well, you have to understand, it depends on who is giving you the condominium and what it comes with. There are people who will give you a condominium and it does not come with wardrobes and what. You have to think about that cost. There are people who give you a condominium that that needs to pay certain fees. Maybe, yes, there's electricity, but there are no yaka units in the yaka, what are they called? Those little things. You might have to purchase those for yourself. So it depends on what comes with. But for me, I would say what we call the statutory fees will be those fees for transferring the title to your names.
Okay.
Yes.
As a lawyer and in your
But then also remember that I told you that condominiums are special. There are regulations, condominium regulations of 2002, that list the kind of fee structure, because there will be a fee structure. As I said, if this is your condominium, there are 6 apartments. This condominium is going to be managed by a group. Now you find that the owners pay a certain fee to managing the building. So that means that security, the common areas and common services have to be paid for. And these things are not, it's not good, they're not optional, because for the condominium to survive, everybody has to contribute. So you have to be very alive to the fact that at some point, you're going to be paying to maintain. Just the way if you bought your own house or built it, you'd still have to pay for garbage collection, you'd still have to pay for someone to clean the compound, you'd have to pay for a guard. So that's how you take it, that this is my home and I'm just paying for the services.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the transferring these titles to your names from the company that you bought this apartment from, is the money static? Because we've had people who say, oh no, I went to National Housing, it gave me this. Went to university, it gave me this. Is there a certain average amount of money that you would expect if you think about transferring the title to your names as a person who has purchased?
Now, why again I advise that you use a lawyer is that we have what we call the advocates' remuneration rules. There's a law that determines what our fees are. So you can go there and it will show you how much someone should charge you, a lawyer should charge you for transferring your title. However, the Registration of Titles Act has some regulations, has a schedule that will show you the fees, the taxes and everything that is paid. So what differs are the fees of who is helping you. A broker will come to you and say, Pamitwale tanu, I will pass the what? I will help you. But then he'll come back to you and say, but URA has said you pay this. And another thing I want to warn you is that the fraudsters are going to lie to you and tell you a lower price. So you'll give him 3 million, he'll pocket the 3 million, he will forge, he will bribe someone, maybe in land instead of 180 million was worth 5 million. And then they will undercost everything and they'll give you a title. But I'll tell you that if there was a dispute for some reason and courts were to find out that this person undervalued the property in order to pay less tax, that has not been good title that has been passed. Okay. That title can be cancelled. So these are you can lose your property. So these are the real risks. That is why you have to be aware of the fees. Let the lawyer, or get quotes from 3 different lawyers and compare. Or compare with the person who's supplying you the house. What are the costs? Because usually they will not want to pass on bad title, especially if in the agreement you include that they're going to help you transfer this thing to your names.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, this is very good information. I'm also taking some lessons. Well, we were talking about people from the diaspora, and you gave us a story about how you have someone who came from abroad, 2 years, had been paying money here, and
found air.
In an instance like that, for people from the diaspora, what steps should they take? I mean, you've sent your money here and you've trusted this person.
First of all, I would advise people that do not mix business with pleasure. If you're going to make an investment and build a house, and you are going to appoint your sister, Phiona, to help you build this house, make sure you hire a lawyer. And don't hire a lawyer, hire a law firm. So do your research, check the website of the Uganda Law Society, check the website of the Law Council. You find registered law firms. Give this law firm instructions to purchase the land. Give this law firm instructions to supervise, not supervise the construction, but to, Phiona might be the one, your sister Phiona might be supervising the construction and everything, but let the money maybe go through your law firm. Why? The law firm is the one that has an agreement with you to make sure that this purchase happens. If you've decided to buy something from Universal and it's 180 million, and Phiona is supposed to help you, let Phiona go, but let your lawyer. Because you see, taking Phiona to court will be difficult. You don't have an agreement with her. You might not even have evidence. She might say, my sister was very good. She was sending me money every month because we are both looking after our mother. How will you argue with that? But if it's a lawyer who has a specific instruction to buy a house of 180 million in this place, at this place, at this place, then that is something you can hold them against in court. And that is money you can recover. But if you ship this money straight to Universal Multipurpose and you say that, Universal, I'm giving you 180 million for a unit, and they sign, then you can go against Universal. But if you give your money to a relative, to a friend, to a broker, and you're not documenting these things, you're not making agreements, these people are not regulated by anybody. Because we've also seen people here who don't fear debt. They're like, let them take me in for 2 months. After all, I hid the 200 million under a bed. Yes, people are fearless. Fraudsters are fearless. So in order to do, and I want to say that there are also people who pretend to be lawyers, and they're not lawyers. There are people who hang around the lands office. You go to the lands office and just pick any old person and they'll tell you, I'll help you.
What lawyer you actually hire.
Exactly. And that's why I said go to the lawyers that have practicing certificates, that have licenses to practice, are found when you go to the judiciary website, you find a list there of lawyers that have certificates. If you go to the Law Council website, you find lawyers that have ever been enrolled, but you'll also find law firms that are registered to, because there are law firms that don't have a license to practice. What are you going to do? How are you going to take them on if they're not under the regulator? Because I can wake up and put something and put a sign, you've seen those signs which say legal advisors, Is that a chambers that is approved by the Law Council? Can you report them to the Law Council? Many times people have written to me and said, Phiona, this lawyer did this and this and this. And then you check, and this person is not a lawyer. I cannot govern this person. What I can do is I can advise you to take this person on in the courts of law. So use licensed and regulated practitioners in order to protect yourself. Use proper means. People fear the cost of using a bank account and transferring to a law firm's bank account. Maybe the law firm will add 1 million for that service. It is worth it. Otherwise, you lose all the money. So you have to count that opportunity cost. That yes, the lawyer has asked for 1 million, the broker has asked for 200,000. Who are you going to give this? Who are you going to entrust this to? Your brother has asked for nothing, But I'm telling you, people have built houses for their brothers and put them in their own names. What do you say? Yeah. You come back and the man owns the house. Oh, what are you going to say? So you're going to go to court and you might get a brilliant lawyer and actually win the case. But what is the cost? Yes.
After you've spent your
I always tell people that prevent. People think about lawyers when there is trouble. Use lawyers to avoid problems. Yeah.
That is very brilliant. Now, one more last question before we go for a break, and then we just wind off with this. In the condominium concept, people that build these universal purpose enterprises that develops these apartments, if you purchased a product here, a house here, a unit here, and maybe later you said to some person, you enter a house 2 days, the roof is off. What then happens? Who is liable for this problem? For a person who enters a unit and then a problem just arises 2 days after you entered it.
You see, somebody who's selling you a unit is liable, because when they sell you a unit, this is what you're buying. You're buying a unit that is supposed to have been appraised by KCCA, by all that meets the standards. The Universal should have architects. They should have a license. Even for them to build this house, they should have clearance from all the bodies that everything is okay. So the law says they have a duty to make sure that whatever they sell you, if I tell you I'm selling this pot and I'm manufacturing it, then it means that I have a duty to make sure that this pot meets the purpose for which it is supposed to be. Now, they are manufacturing the house. They're the ones who built the house. When they sold it to you, you did not go and inspect the cement they used. You did not go and look at how many bars and pillars they put. You did not look at the architectural plans, because that is not what they were selling to you. They sold you a house. And when they sell you a house, there's a building standard. There's a standard for houses, and houses are supposed to take maybe 20 years or 40 years. I don't know. It depends on the standards. That's something you need to look at. Now, if that house collapses, you have every right to take Universal to court and say that the thing they sold me has not, especially if Universal gives you a title and says their own title is for 45 years, and then in your second year the house collapses, then you have a right to take Universal to court and say that the building you sold me was not actually for the purpose which you sold me. Because the building is supposed to keep me safe. Now it has damaged all my property. So you have a right to sue for the return of your money and even for the damages, because you've lost a lot. So that is why people who build have to be very careful to meet the standards, the architects, the builders, and everything. And this is also a message to them that as you sell condominiums, you're selling trust. People have to trust that your house is of the quality that it looks like. The houses that look like this, after 2 months, everything is down. That is, in the law, they call it a misrepresentation. Now, if you cause me to make a decision on a lie, then I have a right to take you on. Yeah. Oh,
wow. Now we are winding up the show, but before we started, I said we are still giving out shopping voucher to 100,000 shopping voucher to a winner for today. And the question for today is, are you ready? Are you ready for the question? The question is, name 2 projects of universal affordable housing. If you can name those 2 projects of universal affordable housing, aka universal multipurpose enterprises, you'll be winning your 100,000 shopping voucher for lunch, for 2 actually, not a shopping voucher, 100,000 shopping voucher, and then a meal shopping voucher for 2. So please do answer that question, and maybe you might never know, you might win that lunch. You might get an early Christmas at a supermarket of your choice to actually shop whatever you need to shop. And we are winding up the show with Phiona Wall. Phiona, do you have any last comments, any last words to people who were, before you said you cannot con an honest man, and I liked that. Please, elaborate more about that and how people out there should be careful when they're taking that step.
Yes. First of all, I want to say thank you so much for having me. I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas. For those that are coming back from the diaspora to come and build and purchase property here, you're very welcome. For those that are here, please do your due diligence. You cannot con an honest man because an honest man takes time. An honest man has not stolen the money, so he cares about where it goes. And that means that if you care, you're going to hire professionals. If you're going to build your house, make sure that the people that are building it, the engineers, the architects, are all licensed. Make sure there are ways to find out. Make sure that the lawyers you're using are licensed so that whatever they do, if anything goes wrong, you can hold them responsible. If you're buying a condominium, make sure that Universal, has the title, is passing on good title. Make sure that your advisor, your legal advisor, tells you exactly how much this whole process is going to cost and how long it's going to take. And I also want to speak to Ugandans out there that this quick money that we run for, especially in conning people in housing and everything, the law is getting tighter and tighter, and would like to see you be able to purchase a house that even your children and their children's children will take on. Yes. So please do the right thing. Be very aware of the cost of money if you're borrowing money. Be very aware of the cost of the taxes, of the cost, because do not be short-sighted and look at who's charging me less for this process. My mom always says cheap things cost expensively, so do not pay the price of trying to run for cheap things or run for and interrogate the processes so that you get the right product.
Well, thank you so much, Phiona. I certainly loved your advice today. Thank you so much. And we are closing the show. If you have answered the questions of name 2 projects of Universal Purpose Enterprises, you can be sure that you're going to win your 100,000 shopping voucher and your meal voucher at Cafe Java's. Be aware that every Fridays we always have a live stream at 3:30 p.m. Galaxy FM. So please do tune in and listen to some more advice about how you can go about your real estate investment. It is bye from me to you. I shall see you again next week. Have a very lovely day.